What is up, my fellow Chiebits? Today, I'm going to bring all of you the weekly manga chapter review of One Piece. Now, I quickly want to answer a question that many of you One Piece fans have been asking me since its release. Am I going to talk about the new One Piece anime special focusing around Film Gold? Yes. Yes, I am. I'm going to be doing a video on it. I just want to clarify right now, I do plan to do one. I may not watch the anime of One Piece because of Toei Animation, but I will watch the films and I will watch the specials because they are pretty damn good. So yes, I am going to be watching that. So just to clarify to all of you One Piece fans, yes, I am going to watch the new special that came out. Now, getting back into the chapter. So, One Piece, this new chapter here, focuses on Sanji's backstory with his life with his family, or his family he doesn't want to accept as his family, and also his fight with his father. So, the main focus of this chapter is Sanji. Nobody else. Like, the entirety of this chapter is Sanji focused. So, if you're a Sanji fan, you're gonna love this chapter. Instantly. You're gonna fucking love this chapter because of how much focus Sanji had, and also finding out more about his character in the past. So, characterization for Sanji. So, one of the things about this chapter we found out was that Sanji had a very rough childhood. And his childhood, in a way, he was constantly mistreated by his family and his parents, or his father. His father didn't even care about him, constantly says, oh, you're worthless, you're a dud, you know, I don't care about you, you're not really a son of mine. And then you have it to where his siblings were constantly hurting Sanji, putting him down, abusing him. Sanji had a very rough childhood. He was constantly mistreated, and he was always the black sheep amongst his entire family. He was the one that was the outcast, one that did not really fit in. And one of the things we found out about Sanji's personality is apparently he had a very noble heart from a very young age. He was a boy that wanted to cook, and he wanted to feed other people. He wanted to feed them regardless. And one of the things that caused issues for Sanji when he was young was that his family said, you should not be the one serving. You are royalty, you should not serve. People should serve you. So we get to see the mindset of Sanji's family, the Vinsmoke family, in this chapter. Now, as I said in my last chapter review, the presence or the aura of some of Sanji's family doesn't necessarily seem to be evil. And I was completely wrong about that. A lot of the characters now, after seeing this chapter, are pretty fucking evil. I mean, Sanji's father now is a piece of shit. Just instantly, piece of shit. And then his brothers as well, kind of piece of shit as well, to do what they're doing to Sanji. Now, maybe they might have a change of heart eventually, maybe they might change their mind, but seeing how they acted in this chapter, definitely pieces of shit when it comes to being a part of Sanji's family. I can see why Sanji doesn't even consider them a part of his family after how they've treated him in the past and how they continue to treat him in this chapter. So what is going on? So, Sanji, he has a dispute with his father. He's fighting with his father throughout this chapter, and we get to see Sanji, for the most part, he's doing relatively fine against his father. He's not really kind of getting the shit beat out of him, and his father doesn't seem to be that necessarily that weak either. But overall, though, when it came to the fight, it was pretty even. It was a very even fight. It didn't seem like any side was really winning over the other, and then we had it to where the father of Sanji actually decided to interrupt the fight and said, wall, and brought in these men before Sanji could be defeated. Now, necessarily from the way this fight concluded in this chapter, it wasn't because Sanji was weak and he was overpowered by his father. It was more of a psychological tactic, because Sanji, as we know what type of personality he has, what he's been through now, and also how he feels about everything because he's been with the Straw Hat crew. There's no way he could possibly attack people that are just standing there and then they just get impelled through. It's a psychological tactic that fucked with Sanji. And so Sanji couldn't necessarily retaliate and attack his father back because of it. I mean, that's how his father beat Sanji. So, at the end of the day, the fight was concluded, and Sanji's father won, but it wasn't a win necessarily because Sanji's father was more powerful, but because his father did something that was just an asshole move. And we've already seen this move with people jumping in front of one of the royalty of the Vinsmoke family and taking a blow and dying. We saw it with Sanji's brothers. So apparently it's not a devil fruit or anything that's causing these people to jump in front of the Vinsmokes and die. It's actually them willing to put and lay down their lives for the Vinsmoke family. So there's a lot of honor and pride in that. I gotta say, they definitely have a lot of passion to work underneath the Vinsmokes, but it's very fucked up, and I can see why Sanji doesn't really like his family after some of the things they do and how cruel they are. And I gotta take my opinion back on, you know, how I thought the Vinsmokes might not necessarily be completely evil. They definitely are evil. Anyways, this chapter, I like what we got. I do. I am a big fan of Sanji. He's one of my favorite characters. Not my favorite, but he is one of my favorite characters. And seeing him get a lot of spotlight in this chapter, seeing him get to use his haki, and the situation he's in, it makes me enjoy where Oda's taking this arc right now. Now, we do have some conflict in this chapter when we found out that Sanji is currently being handcuffed. As we know, Sanji, he doesn't like using his hands. That's one of the things about him. He doesn't use his hands in combat. He only uses his hands to cook and serve. And since his family finds out about this, they decide to put the Celestial Dragon-type cuffs around his hands, his wrist. And so Sanji, he cannot actually necessarily leave. If he was, his arms or his hands would completely explode, and he would no longer be able to cook. And this would be devastating for Sanji. It would be instantly devastating to where it would ruin what type of person he wants to be, of how he wants to cook. He would have to literally cook with his fucking feet. So this would be necessarily bad for Sanji if that happened. So we see the conflict in this. But one of the things I think that's going to happen, judging by what we've seen throughout the series of One Piece, is that there is a possibility that Sanji could use haki on his hands, and then he can make the explosion go off and he could be completely fine. Because, I mean, look, I believe, I could be wrong here, I could be instantly wrong, but there might be a possibility Sanji could just fully haki his hands, and then the explosion could go off, and then it won't even hurt his hands. That is a possibility. Another thing, too, though, that I like where Oda is going with this arc, is that he's hinting that Sanji, apparently, he knows how to use his hands for combat. He knows how to. And I briefly talked about this in my previous reviews, but once again, since it was mentioned in this chapter, I need to talk about it. So Sanji was trained in sword fighting. That's what we found out. He was trained in sword fighting. Sanji's father mentions that in this chapter. Sanji was trained to use his hands to fight. Now, does this mean that Oda's implying that maybe sometime throughout this arc, Sanji will have to use his hands to fight, maybe to save one of his crew members or save someone else? Will Sanji have to use his hands to fight? Is Oda trying to imply something like that? Or maybe Sanji, you know, he actually is a lot stronger with his hands than his legs. And if he is, oh my god, the excitement I have right now, fucking Sanji is going to use his hands. Because that will add some character development, some crazy character development for Sanji if he uses his hands to fight or do anything in combat reasons besides just using his legs and feet. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I mean, how do you feel about, you know, this week's chapter of One Piece? How do you feel about Sanji's family, the Vinsmoke family, of how they're treating him? How his father's like, you're a dud and all that, you're useless. I'm just using you to, you know, be with Big Mom's daughter for I can control North Blue. I mean, how do you feel about everything? How do you feel about the relationship Sanji has with his family? How do you feel about his brothers constantly mistreating him? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or nights wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.